let's be honest, Jeff Bezos, even though he is not the CEO anymore, he's still kind of like the face of the company. He's the super famous one, right? He's the one that if you look at the billionaire list, he's right at the top or near the top, right? So we'll speak about that. Let's get into this.
More shares of Amazon. Wealth editor Robert Frank joins us. He's got the numbers. Why is he selling all this stock? Any idea, Robert?
Not yet, David. I mean, look at the stock price. It certainly is a good time to sell. Now, let's put this in a little perspective. So back in March, remember, Bezos filed a plan to sell $8.5 billion by the end of the year. He sold that in just a matter of weeks. And then earlier this month, he filed a second plan to sell an additional $5 billion by the end of the year. So that will bring his total, if he sells that entire $5 billion, to $13 billion in total sales just this year. And he's already working on that $5 billion tranche very quickly. Over the past week, he has sold in 3 tranches. He had one last Friday, 2 this week. That was Tuesday and Wednesday, totaling about $1.2 billion for the week. He will now only own about 9% of Amazon shares, still clearly the largest individual holder. Now, the big question, as you mentioned, David, is what is he going to do, or what is he doing with all this cash? Now, maybe he's using it to fund some of Blue Origin. That's a space company that is a very expensive endeavor. He's also purchased $200 million of land in Miami. That's to build a new house. He and his fiancée, Lauren Sanchez, they've been spending some of the summer on his $500 million yacht off the coast of Greece, but he is saving a lot in state taxes. Now, remember, he moved from Seattle.
I'm waiting for Bezos on his yacht. He's going to be commented down there. You just wait on it. You just
Florida
wait.
Last year, he will have saved, by the end of all these sales, nearly $1 billion in state taxes by making that move to Florida in stock sales. We should also add, guys, Mackenzie Scott received all those Amazon shares as part of their divorce settlement. She is worth $40 billion, and that is after she gave away $17 billion to charity.
Wow.
Yeah, nobody
That's
gave,
crazy.
I think, away as much money as you well know better than I at a faster pace than Mackenzie Bezos did, Robert. Again, what you added up there adds up to virtually, a small percentage of $13 billion. I have no idea what the capital needs are for Blue Origin. One might imagine they're fairly significant. That said, could it just be diversification a bit away from what is still, almost a $200 billion position in Amazon that he has?
You know, what you usually hear, David, as you well know from executives, as part of financial and estate planning, it's unclear, he and Lauren, when they get married, what that's going to involve and what he's sort of pledged to that. So maybe there's some family dynamics here. But, even at $8 billion, there was the question with Blue Origin, okay, maybe they need to buy a large rocket company. That's even the largest rocket companies weren't $8 billion. So this is way beyond anything that seems to be sort of attached to Blue Origin, but we also just haven't heard from him at all about what he wants to use this capital for. But it is a major amount of cash that he's going to be sitting on right now.
So, where to even start here? First off, when it comes to a CEO selling stock in a company, it's very important. Could be a lot of reasons, right? One could be to diversify funds around, right? One could be because they want to spend a bunch of money on personal stuff, new bigger yachts and planes and mansions, and then everything that goes along with that. I mean, if you want to build, I don't know, a $400 million compound, you just got to understand it's going to keep that compound looking perfect all the time. That's going to be millions, if not tens of millions of dollars a year in staff to keep a place like that looking flawless like it always should look. I mean, it's crazy. It's like basically running your own personal hotel. It's ridiculous, right? If you want to have a $500 million yacht, a $700 million yacht, whatever, right? The expense that goes around with that, not just the one-time expense of buying it, but then the crews to operate that all the time. Oh my gosh, that's a crazy expense. Then we can go into the private plane category, and some of these guys will have multiple planes. It's not just like they have one plane, they have multiple big planes. So, that's something to kind of keep in mind. There's a million reasons why they'll sell. Also, they could think, the stock's high right now. I would like to sell some shares now, right? They could think, a recession's coming. There's a million things on why somebody sells. But, it's only one reason why a CEO or an executive ever buys shares in a stock. And that's because they believe it's going higher. So I never read too much into a CEO selling stock because that happens all the dang time. And especially as these guys get older, right? I mean, sometimes you want to enjoy your money a little bit. So, things to kind of keep in mind there. And then, Blue Origin is very costly. If they want to keep up with SpaceX, we know SpaceX keeps pushing it. I'm telling you, if they want to try to keep up with SpaceX, he's going to have to spend billions more out of his own wallet over this next few years. Hey, it's Jeremy. I hope you really enjoyed that clip here today. What you looking at in front of you right there? That's the 6-figure Hall of Fame. Do you want to see the next one? That's the 7-figure Hall of Fame. Now, that is my private group. Those are members of my private group that have scaled to 6 figures, multi-6 figures, 7 figures, multi-7 figures in their stock market portfolio. They say you are the average of the 5 people you associate with. If you're somebody that is having trouble finding other long-term investors that are focused on building their wealth over the coming years, finding like-minded folks, look no further than my private group. We got a tremendous amount of people. We're consistently talking with each other, learning from each other, researching companies together, sharing news about our different companies, right? We do all that inside my private group. If you would like to apply to join us in there, go down in the description area. There'll be an application down there. You can click on that and you can apply to join us in there and take your game up to a much higher level and associate with the type of folks that you actually want to associate with. Obviously, first and foremost, we got to speak about the assassination attempt yesterday, right? That was a huge market moving event. If that bullet did connect, let me be very clear, it was a massive market mover. Since the bullet did not, was a little off. Since that happened, essentially, this will be basically a non-event for the market. But let me be very crystal clear. If there was a connection there yesterday, that would have changed the market massively. Like if Trump passed away, I'm just telling you, that would have been a massive market shaker that would have completely thrown into like what's going to happen with the election, what's going to happen with policy moving forward. It would have changed a lot of things, okay? Now, that is the 9th president in history to be shot at. The 9th president to be shot at. I'm not the best in math, so maybe some of my math whiz can help me out. In the comments section, let me know what the percent probability is that if you become president, you're going to be shot at. Because we've had 46 presidents, 9 of them have been shot at. Not all of them connected and not all of them passed away, but 9 have been shot at over time. Did a little study on that. Now, my big question, and maybe some of you guys can answer this. I asked this question yesterday. I said, while everybody's talking about all this, I'm over here trying to put the pieces together and try to figure out how the guy missed 3 shots. Sounds like he was about 130 to 150 out, and we're talking yards, right? Not super close, but also not super far. Definitely in range for somebody with a good shot. I looked up the weather today in Butler, Pennsylvania, and there was light wind to no wind on that particular day. It looked to be blowing like 1 to 2 miles an hour much of the day. So basically no wind. So pretty much perfect weather to pull something like this. Sounds like he had a clear line of sight. From the video, sounds like he got off 3 clean shots and then panic fired after that. I know we have a lot of military members in the group, but I doubt any are in this channel. Would love to know how easy or hard it is to pretty much hit a stationary target from that range with basically no wind. I'm fairly certain a well-trained sniper that would have been light work, right? And, definitely had some good folks kind of add in their perspectives and whatnot in regards to that. And, some people were trying to make a case that, Trump's head turned a little bit. And so, that made the difference. And maybe it did. It's not a very good shooting. If you don't know, there's snipers that can ride around on a helicopter and can hit moving targets while the helicopter's moving around from 200 out. Okay, so there's definitely levels to this game. So I think everybody should be fortunate that guy, wasn't the best out there. Let's put it that way, right? Now, something else that's shocking a lot of people, or surprising a lot of people, is big tech CEOs. Tim Cook came out very shortly after with a statement in regards to the matter, and Satya Nadella, Zuckerberg, Musk, Bezos, all these big dogs, right, coming out and really, saying nice things and trying to really be supportive of kind of Trump in this situation, right? Now, Musk should not come as a surprise to anybody, but I think for some of these other folks coming out and doing what they did and kind of making the statements they made, a lot of people got like kind of shocked by the situation. I'm not shocked at all. I told you guys months ago, big tech wants Trump in office. There's no question. All these big CEOs, all these billionaires, they all want Trump in this election. And the reason being is Biden's talked up specifically, and this doesn't get any publicity, and 99% of the population has no clue what's going on behind the scenes. Biden wants to raise corporate taxes to 28% in his second term from 21%. That takes 7 full percentage points of your net income away from you as a company and gives it to the government, right? If you are a CEO of a company, you don't want to give another 7 percentage points of your actual, what's left at the end of the day, to the government. You would much rather keep that for your own company, build your balance sheet stronger, add more employees, do share buybacks, pay out dividends, things like that, then say, okay, here government, here's another 7 percentage points. So to me, I was not surprised at all. I think all these guys secretly want Trump. All of them. All of them. And I think they're honestly pushing, social opinions and all that to the side for this particular election. So, I called that months ago, and sure enough is exactly what happened, right? Now, also another situation here, people are, even Trump said, I want to thank the United States Secret Service. And I'm like, for what? You got lucky. You're not dead. They didn't do a thing. That was horrible. Like, this is embarrassing. This is one of the most embarrassing things. You would think like something like this couldn't even happen. Dude gets that close with a rifle, and there was people there pointing out. I'm like, this is embarrassing, man. Embarrassing. Did you guys see some of the videos of how panicked and frantic these folks were in the Secret Service? It's embarrassing. And I'm like, what? Like literally, it's lucky that guy was not much better with an AR. That's all I'm going to say about that. Or Trump would not be here today. So thinking like the Secret Service did a good job yesterday, no. That was an embarrassment. And I went down the rabbit hole, and I tried to look up kind of like who's the big dog in charge of that, right? I found this interview on YouTube, and, you go a few minutes into that, and they talk about, they want 30% of female recruits by 2030, and it just sounds like, I don't know, man. Like what are they doing? What are, are we focused on trying to protect these people, or are we focused on trying to hit these quotas and things like that? Like I don't know what they're doing, but it was an embarrassment yesterday. Okay, and I don't know if anybody should be thanked for what happened yesterday, right? Now, I think it is important to understand what happened yesterday. That can happen at any moment in the market, and as an investor, you got to be prepared for that. It's just a sleepy day yesterday. I was at, kind of an end-of-year banquet for my kids yesterday. I was there for like 4 hours, and then we went swimming after that. It was just kind of a chill, like sleepy day, right, with the family. And yet, all of a sudden, almost a completely market-changing event happens, right, when you're least expecting it. Like, I was least expecting something crazy to happen yesterday on a random Saturday afternoon. Like, that's crazy, right? But just in the past few years, we've had several black swan events in the market that, shook up the market, at least in the short term, right? None of these things ever last, by the way. But they do shake up the market huge in the short term, right? Trump winning, by the way, in 2016, that was kind of a black swan event. No one had expected that. Everybody thought Clinton was easy money, right? And then Trump won, and all of a sudden, everybody was surprised. I think Trump was even surprised he won, right? And all of a sudden, it was like, wait, okay, well, what's this mean for policy? Like that was, for the market, that was actually a big adjustment period on what was going to transpire there. Rona, obviously, was a huge black swan event. No one expected all of a sudden this thing to come out of nowhere, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, they're shutting down the world. Like, no one had ever experienced that before, ever in history, or at least not in history, but at least that was on this planet right now. No one had experienced that before, where it was like, well, yeah, we're shutting down the global economy. Like, what? Obviously, Russia-Ukraine took a lot of people by a huge surprise. That was a black swan event for the market. And then certainly if Trump had been taken out yesterday, that was a black swan event, right? Absolutely crazy. So you always got to be prepared for those in the market. And you never know when they're going to come. You never know. Just like yesterday afternoon, no one would have had any clue that would have happened. And boom, crazy, crazy, crazy. So always be mentally prepared for things like that, because they do happen sometimes, okay? Now, before we get into earnings, there's another big piece of news that I saw out here, and I thought this was big, and so I got to cover this for you guys. Google's reportedly in advanced talks to acquire this cybersecurity startup, Wiz, for $23 billion, its largest deal ever. Google's in advanced talks to acquire cybersecurity firm Wiz for $23 billion, the Wall Street Journal reported. The people familiar with the journal told the deal could come soon. Wiz was founded in 2020, not that long ago, and has grown at a rapid clip under CEO. It has been eyeing an IPO as recent as May, when the company achieved a valuation of $12 billion. So if Google's to buy them out for $23 billion, obviously it's substantially above where the company's been valued at recently, right? Wiz's cloud security offering gives executives and cybersecurity professionals insight into the company's full cloud presence, something appealing to large firms with significant computing resources. It is backed by a roster of blue-chip firms, including Israeli VC firm CyberStarts, Index Ventures, Insight Partners, and Sequoia Capital. If completed, the deal would be Google's largest acquisition ever. And this is huge, right? Because this is one of those deals that you look at, and we haven't really seen any massive deals here recently. And the reason being is, certainly the folks that are in charge are not really letting any big deals go through here recently. So this could be something that ends up going through. Now, why is Google doing this? You got to ask yourself, why are they doing this, right? Well, my personal opinion is Google's stock has a problem, and they need to do something to get this stock momentum again, right? And remember, when it comes to stock price, it's very important you keep a stock price and you're going in the right direction. There's so many reasons for this, but people only think, oh, that's just greedy, they just want their stock to go up. No, it goes further than that. If your stock underperforms, pressure starts to mount from the shareholders, and the shareholders then vote out board of directors members, okay? Or vote in new board of directors members. So as a board of directors member, it's then your job to basically kind of set up who you want to be the CEO of the company, right? And so if you're the board of directors and you're getting pressure, you got to start following that pressure to the CEO. Hey, shareholders aren't happy, the stock's not doing well, right? Then your employee base isn't happy as well. If remember, a lot of these tech companies especially, they give their employee bases a ton of stock. Well, if your stock's significantly underperforming all these other big tech stocks, guess what? Your employees start to become very disgruntled. They start to become not very motivated, and they start to want to go to other big tech companies, okay? This is something very important to understand. And so these companies have to keep their stocks moving in a good direction, right? Showing you on 1000X here, if we compare Google versus, what's always been kind of their biggest peer, which is Apple, right? Meta is also another big peer of Google. But, Google and Apple go back a long time in terms of, those companies being viewed as peers, right? Android, iOS, we know the whole game, right? Forward P on Google, 25. Forward P, Apple, 33. 2-year forward P, under 20 for Google, 30 for Apple. If you look at trailing 12-month earnings per share growth, Google's smoking Apple. Current year expected earnings per share growth, Google's smoking Apple. Next year earnings per share growth, Google smoking Apple. Same exact thing with revenue metrics. Gross margins better for Google than Apple. Net margins better for Google than Apple. And yet, it trades at a far lower multiple than Apple. That means the stock is not getting any respect, which means there's something in the story. It's not numbers related, it's the story related that's got to get investors excited. And there's clearly nothing there with Google right now that's making investors excited about Google stock. And that's why it's trading at far lower multiples than somebody like an Apple, and even though Google has way better growth rates and way better margins, right? So Google they have to do something. If we go back to 2016, Apple and Google were right there. They were neck and neck, going back and forth, right? And you look at this, look at the second quarter of 2016. Apple was the biggest market cap, over $500 billion. Google was not far behind, right? And look at this, third quarter, fourth quarter, and now Google's dropped significantly. Look at Google's market cap compared to Apple. It's not even remotely close, $2.2 billion versus $3.5 billion for Apple, right? And keep in mind, if all of a sudden Google doesn't have that good of an earnings and Amazon comes through with a banger, next thing you know, Amazon's going to jump Google, and Google's going to move to the 5th biggest market cap. This can't happen. So if you're Google, you got to do something, and I understand the play. You got to get momentum. Okay, you buy out some super fast growth cybersecurity company. You maybe break out those numbers once you make that acquisition, and then you show everybody, hey, we got this new great growth engine. Look at this over here, our new shiny object. So Google's also loaded with cash. And what are they doing with that cash? Not much. You might as well make an acquisition like this. So, yeah, I'm not surprised. Now, can they get it through the government? That's going to be the next big question. I don't know. I mean, if they announce this acquisition, let's say this month or next month, maybe they could get a new administration in office by the time the deal is kind of getting finalized in regards to the government looking over the deal. So I don't know. They might be able to get it through. So that's a huge deal for the market, okay?